Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Space Canada TV. My name is Super Evil Pop Tarts. Hey, look at this, a stream. Wow, it's been a while since last time we did Helldivers. And it's been a while since we did a Final Fantasy XIV one, and quite a while. But here we are, in the party with me, and sitting on the chairs. I have to the left of me, Outrider,
Hello.
and to the right of me, Bam, aka Jedi Players in the Chats.
Hola.
And the reason we are streaming is Outrider here has joined Final Fantasy XIV. He is not a stranger to the Final Fantasy XIV. He played way back in the day. He got as far as before the Ultima fight, and then he stepped away from the game. But he is back, and he's gotten much farther than that in a very short amount of time. And we're going to talk to him about his experience, what he likes, what he doesn't like. Hey, we might even bring back our alpha, Chad, and beta list. But first things first, Outrider, if I am correct, you're somewhere in the patch notes for Heaven's Ward, but let us first talk about your experience with A Realm Reborn from back then to now.
I played back in 2016.
Okay.
It was shortly. It was actually when Stormblood got released. Because I was on PlayStation 4, and my wife for $20 bought the disc that had it, Heaven's Word, and Stormblood.
Oh, you have you had a physical copy?
Physical copy, and it had I think like 90 days.
Oh, 90 days for free gameplay?
Yeah, because
Whoa.
it was three. It was the base game and 2 expansions. I think got 30 days per.
That's a pretty good deal for $20, and you got 3 months worth of.
Well, Target mislabeled it. It was actually $59.99, and some idiot put $19.99 on the thing with the actual UPC numbers for the barcode for the game. So it rang up as $20, and my wife was like, "Oh, well, shit, yeah," and got it for me.
That is a huge freaking deal, actually.
Yeah, we lucked out.
Yeah.
I had a couple characters on a few different servers because I didn't know really at the time anybody that was really playing it at first. And I have like a black mage that you were talking about, that got up to level 50 and was towards the end of A Realm Reborn. But I'll be honest with you, they changed some quests.
They did.
In the end game. There was one I remember where this is where I got stuck, and it was you had to do it by yourself, and you were actually on the ground fighting with Sid against an Imperial Legion. And they had a walker that was bigger than the Magic Tech walkers. It actually almost looked like an ATST. And it's gone. Thank God. It was terrible.
They changed. They changed a lot. Like you were saying, they changed that one particular one near the end. The Praetorium in the one before it, when I played it, is not the way it is now. They changed it completely. It used to be the one before the last one, the Praetorium, where you fight Gaius and the Ultima weapon. It used to be an 8-man encounter, and now they pared it down to 4, and they changed all the mechanics and the encounters. Hell, even the fight with the Julius fight was actually like 2 different fights. You had to fight her when she was on the magic tech, and you had to like stun her. And then once you got done with that, you got the fighter. It's way different. But anyway.
Yeah, it's very, very different, and it really sucked. Just trying to be as polite as I can, but no, it was awful. The that experience at the end game, but overall, the game itself wasn't bad.
Hmm.
I had a good time with what it was. I ended up eventually on to Adamantoise, where I am currently, and that's where I discovered two of my friends that played D&D in real life with me were quietly playing this damn game and never told anybody.
Wow.
I still have those two characters on here. I actually recreated my Black Mage, which both were Lalafels, by the way, and
Of course.
because I just thought that was hilarious, having this little pointy-hatted nightmare
That'll make
lobbing
Kikito really
all sorts
happy.
of horrible magics at things. And then I recreated my Pathfinder, which is the kind of an offshoot of Dungeons and Dragons.
I know what
For
it
those
is.
that know, my Pathfinder Ranger Rodargo, which was a catfolk to begin with, so I actually have a catfolk on this server too. That started as an archer, became a bard, which is way different than what it was when I was doing it.
Yes.
I actually loaded up Row the other day just to kind of check to see if my two buddies still played, and no, they're not here anymore. And I forget it. There's no way I could figure out a part at this point at that stage of the game.
Yeah, you'd have to
I'd have to start over.
Yeah, from square one.
You having fun eating Bam? All I see is
Perhaps.
you're snacking on shit.
Perhaps it's probably because I'm targeting the tart on accident. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it's just my sub ran out, and we're talking 2016, which was right after the Taken King going into Rise of Iron
Oh yeah.
for Destiny 1, and I just kind of branched off and just stuck with that game for longer than I should have.
Longer than a lot of us should have.
I have been listening to you guys talk about this game for a while. You know, and yes, I missed playing with y'all, so that was a factor for me also joining. But I kind of missed playing an actual MMO too.
This is like the last time I had played an MMO before this was WoW, of course. And the last time I had played
Why are you
that.
disappointed, Bam?
In the subject material, that's why.
Well, here's the thing. The last time I had played WoW was back in 2010. And actually, I lied. That was my first MMO. Last time I played WoW was 2010, and then I stopped because no one knew was playing it anymore. And that's when Cataclysm event started, and that's when Cataclysm came out, and I just had no reason to play it. The next one I played was Star Wars: The Old Republic.
I did too.
And then I stopped playing that after a while because, again, I didn't have anyone to play with and stopped. So that's my MMO experience when it comes to playing MMOs. But I had saw Alucard was playing this, and I have been thinking about this for a while, and that's when they had the free trial for Realm Reborn and Heaven's Ward. So I played it. I didn't get the warnings that gave you, the fact that A Realm Reborn is a slog. But I think it was somewhere in Heaven's Ward where I'm like, nope, I don't even have to wait for, the free trial to run out, and I subbed. And I've been here since. And that's back in 2020.
Yeah, so this is 8 years since I played originally, coming into it. So, yeah, 2016 to now, yeah, 8 years. So, yeah. Realm Reborn still sucks.
Yeah. It doesn't matter which YouTuber you watch. It doesn't. It really doesn't matter. It is a slog to get through.
Terribly long.
But I do try to look at it, A Realm Reborn specifically, in the light of, if I was someone who had played Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 and the nightmare that was, would I not see A Realm Reborn as being so much of a slog? But I don't have that insight to be able to say that or not. After I beat it the first time with my main, and I made a bunch of. You don't have to make alts. You just have one character. You do all the jobs and stuff. I'm a crazy man. And as I'm going through it, I saw the slog, and that's why when you came back, we said the Rainbow Born is a slog. I even told Bam when he started playing. I'm like, Bam, A Realm Reborn is a slog. Once you get to Heaven's Ward is when the game really starts to get good, and it's not a slog, and it's fun. And you'll have all these cool things to do and just great story moments. Would you agree?
It's a slog because, for me, it's a slog because they were doing too much. I understand, and I've been told by many people, not just you and Bam, but others that I talk to, other people, in fact, that abandoned other games to go play this, that are now appearing on my social media feeds because I mentioned I'm playing this game, and they're now coming out of the woodwork. Do you want to play? Do you want to play? I'm on this server. Do you want to do this? It's like, look, all right, folks, let me get to Shadowbringers, and then we'll all get together for shenanigans, okay?
Oh, yeah, that's when all the shenanigans can happen.
But this game, it's setting a foundation. It's supposed to be setting up a foundation and giving you a lot of back information for new players coming in, as well as returning ones from the original game to kind of correct some things. But my estimation is they did way too much at the expense of an actual good story. There was too much world building going on. I think they could have pared it down and allowed a little bit more world building to go into Heaven's Ward and some of the expansions that follow to take the load off of A Realm Reborn. I will also say, after getting through A Realm Reborn and then going into the patches that link base game to Heaven's Ward, you basically could have thrown out the base game and just used the patch story as your main story.
In Yoshi P and his team's defense, they were making A Realm Reborn at the same time as they were still patching 1.0. There's a great documentary you can watch on YouTube from No Clips about what Yoshi P, about Final Fantasy XIV being reborn from the disaster. Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, being reborn from the disaster that was Final Fantasy XIV. I highly suggest people to watch it. I think it's a 3-parter, but it is well worth time. But they were doing something that no one in the industry had ever done. A game that failed, that they basically sack the director and producer and bring in Yoshi P, whose experience was with Dragon Warrior series, and this was his pitch to the president and the everyone in Square Enix. This is what we do. This is what I think will work to salvage what we had. I'm not saying that what you said is wrong by any stretch of the matter. It probably would have made it a lot better, but this is the story they went with for A Realm Reborn, and the plan that they
And
had
it
put
wasn't
out.
good. And it wasn't good.
Oh,
I am never going to think that A Realm Reborn, regardless of the situation that they were put in to restart this game, had a good story.
No, I'm not gonna. I will not disagree with you. It's fair. It is totally fair.
I think they were doing too much to establish the world, and sacrifices have to be made. And when you're putting so much in, it's going to start getting mediocre over time. Because you're not going to be able to have an insane level of detail to every little thing to make it seem interesting and not average. I had so many moments in the overall story of A Realm Reborn that were just complete basic. We're talking entry-level fantasy bullshit stories that even looking at Final Fantasy games over the years, it was almost unexcusably bad. They should have worked a little bit more on the stories, but, this is foundational. I had to keep telling myself that. It's foundational. Moving into Heavensward, it's a little bit of a different game because it's much more focused.
Yes.
And much better story, much better characters.
Before we dive into Heavensward, which is really if you decide to play Final Fantasy XIV, which now has have you heard about the free trial for Final Fantasy XIV that now has A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, and Stormblood? We can play up to level 70 for unlimited time. Let's talk about Realm Reborn first before Heavensward. So, your negatives, you would say, was the story's just not good.
Yeah. And unfortunate side effect of the story not being good was I didn't find any of the characters that you were supposed to kind of attach yourselves to as interesting.
Very endearing.
I agree with that too. After going through A Realm Reborn 8 times, they are all rather bland.
Yeah.
Granted, I understand that they were set up a lot in 1.0, so if you were someone from 1.0, maybe they were more endearing and you have more of a connection. But there wasn't anyone who stood out that I could attach myself to like I am now attached to certain characters now.
It didn't also help, sorry, but it didn't also help that the voice acting
is hit or miss, very hit or miss, very hit or miss
at points. Absolutely terrible voice acting at points, and I am glad that also seems to be rectified in the patches after A Realm Reborn showed immediate improvement on voice acting quality and how they recorded it and how everything was blended together to get people to emote. It was improved. It's improved more into the expansion, obviously.
Well, it's a completely different company and voice actors.
It's fucking pain at points. It's like this is part of it is I'm playing this game in 2024. I'm restarting as a new player in 2024. And this game came out in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So this is almost a throwback to how games used to be versus today's quality and expectations.
Yep.
As I move closer to Dawn Trail, obviously, yeah, it's going to get to more present day sensibilities and production quality and etc. and so on.
So, why don't you list all the negatives? One, story. Two, the voice acting is very bad. Any other negatives before we go into positives about A Realm Reborn?
I don't like that everything. It seems there's way too many instances where, in A Realm Reborn, instead of having the player directly figure out what's going on, they would introduce somebody that would mysteriously have an answer.
Hmm.
And they're doing that right now too, in actually Heavensward.
Why the hell did you slap me, bitch?
I slapped you a while ago.
Well, it just showed up now.
Well, don't.
Sorry,
Outrider.
Outrider.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But for example, obviously I got through the main story of Heavensward. I completed the Heavensward mission. And now I'm like in the patch notes, and one of the things you do is this. Come on, this expansion is almost 7 years old at this point, so
don't worry about spoilers. Just you can go for it.
The raid for Alexander is one of the things you unlock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm running around and I'm trying to figure out how to open it up and get past the force field. And I have Biggs, Wedge, and Sid with me. 3 genius engineers, plus Yasholda.
Yastola, yep.
Magician extraordinaire. Her master is not far from where I'm at, in her own cave. And they had to introduce a brand new character to tell Biggs and Wedge to turn the knob according to the numbers that were being read off in the transmission they were picking up to open the door. That was not necessary. Not necessary to introduce a brand new character just to solve that.
Me and Bam can't say stuff because we don't want to ruin the story for you.
But you understand what I'm saying. That's just
that
a
makes sense.
bad way to introduce somebody.
Yeah, no.
And
go on.
This game makes that cardinal sin quite a bit. I'm more forgiving of it. Because, okay, this is also something you see in just game design.
Yeah.
They need to do something to get this new person in. They're not going to focus on like something a little bit more dramatic. They're just going to, all right, let's insert them here to do X, and then we develop them as time goes forward.
Yeah.
Fine. But that was just bad. Mm-hmm. and they have this bad habit of doing that. Picking absolutely the worst possible moments to interject these new characters.
The setup for Alexander could have been better. I will let you know. And that granted, that's a raid series, and Stormblood. Yes, the Stormblood raid series, not the Alliance raid, because they're separate, has a much better setup. But no, point taken. Anything else negative about Realm Reborn? I figure we get the negatives out of the way and we get to talk about any of the positives for Realm Reborn.
It's just a minor nuisance, but I didn't enjoy the fact that for me to advance into getting towards the first expansion, which was Heavensward, is you must complete a 24-man raid.
The Crystal Tower, yep.
Yes, I don't like that.
That I don't understand it either, quite honestly.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset that raid content like that should be optional. It enhances a story, not mandatory. Because there's just people out there that don't like to raid. I'll do it. And I actually kind of thought running the raid wasn't so bad once I got done with it. It's at this stage, when you have a bunch of level 90s running a bunch of sprouts through it, it's kind of a massacre.
Hold on, I'll be right
bosses.
back. Keep talking, I'll be right back.
Okay. It's a massacre for the bosses and everything in the encounters. So they're basically over very quickly. And Sprouts can make mistakes, and it's no big deal. You can pretty much recover.
Yeah.
But I don't remember when I played Star Wars: A New Republic. SWTOR. Yeah, SWTOR. The Old Republic, sorry, not New Republic, Old Republic. That there was ever a time where they forced you to do a raid. Raids were optional. You always could finish the story and move on to the next expansion. You didn't have to do the raids. I did not have to do Eternity Vault to move forward. I didn't have to do a Karagas Palace, which was the second raid, to move forward in the story. You don't need to do that. And it was just a bizarre design choice on their part to do that.
And you didn't even have to do it for whichever one had you fight like a Revan?
No, I actually stopped playing SWTOR as the Revan expansion came out. I got done with the one. It was actually the first actual paid expansion, which had probably my favorite raid up to that point in the entire game. It's called Scum and Villainy. Mm-hmm. That was in this block. It involved the Rise of the Hutt Cartel. That was the expansion. I'm kind of going off from Final Fantasy here, but we're talking about MMOs and stuff.
Yes, we are talking about MMOs.
But, Scum and Villainy, two factors. Number one, the title of it was perfect for a raid, as far as I'm concerned. Because you were dealing with smugglers in the raid. And secondly, just the set pieces were so good in that raid. I enjoyed it, don't I? The Crystal Tower series, I'm glad I did it.
Okay.
But I don't have any desire really to ever go back into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a one and done for me.
Well, it might show up in your...
At this stage of the game.
Yeah, it might show up in your Chloe book, but like I said...
I don't care about the Chloe book, though. I need to actually stress that. The Chloe book, while it's a nice thing for me to get extra glams and, rewards, like cosmetics...
It also gives you XP, too.
It does not push me further in the story.
True. All right, at this point...
that's kind of why I'm here right now.
Yeah, you're in. Let me get to the story mode before the new expansion comes out, and you've gotten through 2 expansions and at least the base stuff, and you're now in the patch notes for Heaven's Ward in less than 3 weeks. So you're beelining. You're doing what I did almost, beelining the main story quest.
Somebody on socials who. Bam, probably know Nem plays. I mentioned I saw the ending to the base ending to the Heaven's Ward. He's like, "Holy shit, you're already done with that!"
It's because I think it's because you tweeted earlier about meeting Midgardsormr, and it's like less than a week passed by. It's like, so anyways, I beat the hell out of the Archbishop.
I stuffed Super Pope into his coffin and I moved on at that point.
Before we get into Heaven's Ward, but I know we're jumping in because we're enjoying. This means you're enjoying the game now. Any other nitpicks or nibbles, negatives about A Realm Reborn, or you want to go on some of the positives that you possibly experienced?
Sometimes, when you get a new dungeon unlocked in it, not the story-specific ones.
Oh, the optional ones?
The optional ones. Sometimes it's like, you unlock it and it disappears from your quest log. Other times it's, you unlock it, but the quest doesn't go away until you complete it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, come on, man, really? Just get...
It's very...
Yeah.
And they did that with some of the trials, too.
Yeah.
Or even to some of the extremes, because I know, like Garuda, you get the extreme, you open it, and the quest is still there. But there are some of the other extremes that you open it, and then the quest is done, and you can just optionally go into the extreme if you want to or not.
Actually, here's something: revolving dungeons, the 4-person dungeons. Story dungeons give you the option to run with an NPC party.
Some of them do, yes. A good majority now.
Well, the story-specific ones do.
Yes.
Everyone I've encountered so far has. They all have so far.
Oh, well,
In my experience, they all have.
Yeah, that was not a thing when I started.
That was not a thing originally,
Yeah.
but that is a thing now.
They've been slowly working on it, yes.
And I greatly appreciate that. But that option should be available for all dungeons. If you want people to really get in there and play, and one of the biggest classes you're going to have, the biggest type of player you're going to have is DPS players. Yeah. Sometimes, especially in those side dungeons, if it's not one that's popular, you ain't ever going to get to run it.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, they've been doing that. They've been working what they call the trust system a lot when Endwalker came out. That's when they started to really add a lot more dungeons in there, especially the story dungeons, more specifically, to have the trust system. Of course, they want you to play with the community and like friends, but they also know that there's a lot of people that are solo-minded, or, like I said, DPSs really suffer for wait times when it comes to getting into anything. So they've really been busting their butts to add more trust system. The optionals, I cannot see them doing that. I think they'll just mostly concentrate that for the main story quest.
Yeah, it's just that you asked. One thing's a nitpick for me. That's a nitpick for me. Okay. That I had the option to run with NPC class characters, and sometimes, depending on the story dungeon, it was the actual characters that are part of the Scions or whatever going through it.
That especially comes into focus from Shadowbringer on. You'll be adventuring with the NPCs that you know and you've been around.
Yeah, I just want to say the one that really stood out to me recently of playing with the NPCs. Yes, this is a Heavensward thing, but the library that you go through.
The Great Gubu Library?
Yes. And you go in with the NPCs, so you have Shola, you have Alphino.
And the Rogo, Sarah Rogo.
Who is a frog. And when we got in there, and I saw, everybody on my party, and I was like, oh, the frog's here. My wife's sitting next to me, and I'm like, I hope Frog's main tank. I hope the fucking Frog is main tank. And he's main tank. I actually cheered when I saw him pull aggro and spin their enemy around. I was like, yes! Fucking Frog, go! The thing is the size of a cat standing up, and it's like tanking these huge enemies. I'm like, do it!
He's Lalafell sized. I've had tons of Lalas main tank for teams. It just happens to be, a frog.
Little frog with a little hat, a little cap on, with a pom pom at the end of it, carrying a staff, and it was just so funny to see.
And he's talking too all the way through. They have a dialogue as they're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun.
How about some positives? Oh, we got another one?
No, one last thing, since we are talking about dungeons and whatnot. I get trial by error, but if you're going to introduce a mechanic like that you need to know about...
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Telegraph.
We should at least see it at some point earlier on, so it makes sense. Like all right, here's where you have to stack up onto people.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you see like for me, it's orange. It might be some different color for other people that have color blindness and stuff like that. Like lines on the ground, you step away from them. It's great. But when I saw something like appear over me, I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is like am I going to get like orbital lasered right now? And
what was it again?
It was a stack-up mechanic. It was a stack-up mechanic.
Oh, was it the first one that we dealt with and I forgot to tell you? That was more on me.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. You assumed that I already saw it and that there was no fight all the way up to that point.
Yeah,
That had a stack-up mechanic.
That's the first instance of a stack-up mechanic. 'Cause I don't even think the trials at that point, which would have been Garuda, Ifrit, and Titan, have the stack-up mechanics.
And what's really crazy is the stack-up mechanic is very common from that point on.
Yes.
So it really should have been like highlighted a little bit more. It's like, hey, here's some common things you might encounter. Pay attention for other ones, but here are the big five. And it's like, these are the things you want to get away from. These are the things you want to stand in. And stack-up mechanics should have been one of those like big five things to at least give you a good primer for dungeons and
I believe
raiding.
I think the stack-up mechanic was, I think that was Gaius as the first stack-up mechanic, actually, and then of course it's used in Ultima.
Yeah. So positives.
Positives are there's got to be. You're still playing the game. There's got to be positives to A Realm Reborn.
It's done.
Well, besides you're done.
Yes,
with
it's done. It's finished. I'm done with it. Actually, I generally like the land of Eorzea.
Okay, the world itself.
So the world itself, like the maps that you're out on, that you can explore. I do like the environments that you go in and out of. They're very diverse. They managed to do something that I haven't really seen other big fantasy games do when you transition from one zone to the next, is make it look like it makes sense to go from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of does, because the size of the areas are so large. And there's so many different zones within each, I want to say almost like country within Eorzea, that, it feels more organic to travel around in it.
That's good.
I'm actually enjoying getting to know the beast tribes more.
Mm-hmm.
And this was after completing the main story. I went and I got the Sahagin, and I went and I unlocked the Sylph, and I have the others.
Delmalja, let's see, what else? There's also,
Ixal.
the Ixal, which is a craft.
Yeah, I haven't got them.
Yeah, that you would get it would be a blue quest in Gridania, I think New Gridania actually. But they deal with crafting, so they're not just go out and do an adventure and kill things and come back with them and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it is like, you go and you sack like 3 missions out, get a little reputation.
And you get ventures for them also, which help you with your retainers to send them out on adventures also.
But it's just interesting that it's like, okay, now you're actively showing that there are sections of tribes that we've been fighting that actively are not wanting to associate with such things.
Mm-hmm. They all have stories too, which it's not just these are just the good version, and there's no reason why they're good just simply because we want good versions of those particular race. No, they have stories and reasons of why they're good, and it's everything that you do has a story. Your job has a story, and it's just really, really well thought out, I think. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah. Well, they took the time to, place these things in there. Yes, I do agree that they did think it out. I just wish that some of this was fleshed out more, but I get it. Time, resources, moving forward with other, additions coming out. Yeah. You're kind of limited, but right now, yes, I did enjoy meeting these beast tribes outside of me just slaughtering them and getting this. Oh, you're an actual people, not just
Monsters to be
things
destroyed.
I target, and
yeah.
I just stab you to death with my spear. The soundtrack, because we have it playing in the background right now.
Mm-hmm. And then what's playing right now is a PvP tune. So
yeah, but the soundtrack overall is just fantastic. But that's almost kind of a gimme when it comes to the Final Fantasy series, because of just the caliber of composers that they get.
Ubu Naminatsu.
You've had one for decades, basically at the helm.
Yeah. Do you know that Ubu Namatsu, I might be mispronouncing his name a little bit wrong here.
Nobuo Uematsu.
Yeah.
Yep.
When he first did the Final Fantasy soundtracks, he did that as a side gig. Mm-hmm. He was working I think he was working at a music store, and he figured, I'll just do this, and it'll be extra money for my hobbies. But then Marioka Soken took over after that, though, and he's the main composer for 14.
Yeah, but it's just really, really well made music, and it's enjoyable to listen to, and I do appreciate that they have the ability for you to listen to various tracks from the soundtrack.
Did you place your little mini orchestration in your apartment?
I haven't actually gone in my apartment.
Okay.
Since I purchased it. It's depressing. I'm going to set up my little radio in there and then nothing else, Until I get a couple more things to throw in there.
Well, you have an orchestration, and you can then put it on there. I remember, like I said, I can make furniture for you. Just let me know what you want.
But like every inn you can stay in.
You can listen to the music in the inns.
Yeah. So you can listen to them there, and you find your tracks that you like and whatnot, and you set it up, and you can just chill out, and it's very nice. Yes, music definitely is something that's kind of a gimme. But
I guess you could say the nitpick would be the fact that you can only listen to music that you actually have opened the orchestration roles for. But
it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's something for you to chase in the game. If you had nothing to chase in the game, why are you playing the game?
Well,
besides the story and stuff.
Some of those roles, though, some of the songs that I've actually enjoyed are just ones that you can purchase from a vendor in town.
Yep.
Because they're some of the main scores that happen. I've already encountered a couple of songs that I don't really care for at all. But overall, that's personal preference. But
yeah,
just the quality, the production quality and everything is very high for music. And I appreciate that that's been kind of a standard.
Yeah, music, just like art, is subjective. What someone thinks is really great and awesome and a banger, another person might be saying, it's not all that.
Yeah. I mean, Bam has the Nier Automata soundtrack playing.
Oh yeah, he's that's all he's got. That's all he has.
One, I have Atonement in there, and you cannot scoff at the Nier Automata music. How freaking dare you? I will make fun of Yoko Taro on all avenues except his composer.
It's very true. We're just pointing out your love of that franchise and everything involved with it.
What love?
Dude, you tell me always at a certain time every day you have to pray to your shrine to Yakutaro. You keep telling us that constantly.
Just gonna log out.
But okay, I deserve that one. Let's see if you can resit your ass back on that seat now.
Oh, I can. Don't you worry about
it. I have one thing that I've extremely enjoyed with The Realm Reborn.
Okay.
And it will continue to the future as I keep going through these expansions and whatnot. Can we talk about fishing?
Oh, okay. Ocean fishing. Or just fishing in general.
In general. Also ocean fishing. I actually really enjoy it. I have not done spear fishing, but I have seen what it looks like.
It is boring.
I'm going, I'll be able to, I'll cope. with that because everything else I actually enjoy with fishing, and I'm kind of picky about my fishing mini games.
Mm-hmm.
Bam and pretty much anybody else that knows me knows I love playing the Ryo Go Gotetsu, also known as Yakuza or Like a Dragon
Yep.
series,
Yep.
and they have fishing mini games in these things. I think Bam has watched me fish for hours on stream in a freaking Yakuza game because I'm catching sharks nonstop. You know, because I wanted the gold shark and I was trying to get the.
I mean, in the recent one, didn't you like disappear on an island and came back like a freaking gazillionaire?
Yes, yes, I did. But that was more like the island was a Dondoko Island. That was more like Animal Crossing than anything else. But you could fish, and I was happy I could fish. But the fishing there was actually spear fishing,
Okay.
which it was more like a you were targeting with your analog sticks and throwing, and it felt more natural than spearfishing looks in this game.
It's spearfishing. You only do it to get through the fishing story quest through for Stormblood, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're done with it, like you just open up all those fishing holes for so you have them in your log, and you don't ever go back.
But, the things that appeal to me, because in real life I do fish.
Okay.
The choice of different baits, having weather conditions, time of day matter
Yeah.
for certain fish. I also like having almost fishing superpowers, fishing abilities.
All
That's just
the
neat.
abilities you have there at your disposal.
Yeah, it adds to it. It makes it a very enjoyable mini game, even though the end result is kind of RNG, but you're kind of tweaking with that RNG using your different abilities and everything else, and you're gathering points to see if you can land the big one, or you're just going to constantly keep missing that fish that you want until you finally get it and you scream, I don't ever have to get a Titanic sawfish ever again.
Yeah. I know what
Screw
you're
that
talking about.
fish.
I know what you're talking about. The Beast of
Screw
Brewer.
Wawalago for putting you through that.
Yes, the Beast of Brewer
Yes.
Beacon.
I haven't done the quest after that, which is the one where you have to go find all those legendary fish.
Feast of Famine, which I'm
that's
at that.
kind of sitting there.
I
I'll get to
haven't-
it later, but
That one, I read into it. It is very involved, and I'm like, leave that for another time because it sounds like that's going to take a lot of in-depth fishing and shit for this.
oh, it will. But I am going to get to it at some point. Ocean fishing now. Going to different zones, you kind of have a particular route for.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know, you can actually look at the time that you depart, like when it goes live, and see what the route is going to take, and then you can kind of plan accordingly.
Yep.
I mean, you really can go out of your way to figure out exactly what fish you want to try to land while you're out on sea.
Yeah,
Based on time of day, everything, and it's wild. And all I'm trying to do right now is break 10,000
to get the mount.
Points to get my mount. And apparently, I've also fell down the rabbit hole of there's a content creator.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the one that specifically does fishing. They just recently highlighted him.
Yep.
And I was looking at his videos and watching his videos about fishing, and I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go visit his aquariums that they have set up.
Yes, they've got his. I forget which server world it's on, but they have an actual set up as an aquarium.
They have 3 aquariums.
All the worlds, like we're on Adamantoise, and there's a bunch of different worlds within the server. Adamantoise is our server, and you can server hop, but it costs you money, and there are some negatives to it. Like if you have like a house and you change servers, your house is gone. Yeah. So it's they're kind of trying to ease that up so you could actually visit other servers, but it's going to be limited to certain ones. But yeah, it's like there's like the worlds that are RPG, like you role play your character specific. They're like heavy for it. Then you've got the servers that are heavy on, like, they're super hardcore sweaty raiders. Then you've got like, supposedly Animantois is the chill server. It's not like it's not quite casual, but it's not also super sweaty. It's kind of like an in between, but generally they are like they're like the dude. We're like the dudes of the Suver world, The dude abides. Yeah, the dude wants this, but the dude's not gonna get all frazzled. And I think there's no White Russians in here, but you get what I'm saying. Each server kind of has a
vibe to it.
A vibe, a personality to it.
Yeah. Another thing I really like about this, and it might just be the general trappings of an MMO, but after playing Destiny for so long, I like playing the game and earning more cosmetics that I know what to do with.
You have currently 800 spaces in your glamour dresser. And it will fill up fast.
I'm talking minions. You can earn minions. Mounts. I get more stuff. Obviously the orchestration roles. There's just more stuff as rewards, and rewards for doing additional content than I would say I get out of Destiny. It's like, oh hey, we get like an emblem once in a while. Wow. Everything else is on the cash shop for that game.
Yep.
Essentially.
All the glams and extra bits.
There's so much stuff that is earnable in this game. It's silly. And even in the Realm Reborn, there was, just on that alone, it was like, yeah, there's a lot of cosmetics you can earn in this. And it's a nice feeling doing something. And, oh, hey, I just got a new mount for my troubles. Or, oh, I just got a random minion for completing a story quest. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah, or moats.
Yeah, like I got my Manderville dance, right? The most important dance in the game.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is a must. If you haven't at least done the Manderville, well, granted you want to do it anyway because of Endwalker's Relic quest is tied to Manderville's, but if you haven't done the Manderville quest to where you actually get the Manderville dance, then you're throwing $15 away every month.
Well, I can say that an enjoyable thing is the Manderville quest.
As much as you think as much as it is, it's JoJo Bizarre Adventure in your mind.
It is. It's JoJo as a detective story. It's JoJo meets the Pink Panther detective stories, and it's ridiculous, and it's a nice palate cleanser.
And just
to have an option to do something that objectively silly.
Yeah, and just think, all this stuff is optional. It's not like they're telling you have to do it. You can play the game however you want. And this just not just Realm Reborn. This is like all the expansions. They have all this wonderful optional stuff that you can do. All the minions and mounts and orchestration roles, the glams. I mean, I know you haven't gotten into crafting yet, but there's a lot more glams in crafting too that you haven't seen. We haven't done the really cool treasure maps yet. The ones that go into portals, that go into different instances, that have all kinds of different loot pools with different stuff. But I don't want to take away from your positives for Realm Reborn. I don't know if you have any more, but
No, generally those are the things that are keeping me happy right now, and just overall, just how you play the game. I kind of missed having the options of multiple different abilities
Yeah.
that you can tinker around with and try to figure out your rotation that you want to use and just have a good time. And I do kind of like it's kind of frowned on in the community, and I think the game itself to go, oh, hey, I got this much DPS during that encounter that we wiped on. What's your problem, And people tracking it and just outright saying it to other people.
Well, there are those people in certain servers that use add-ons that do that, but...
Yeah, I know, but it's frowned upon, and I think
Yes.
I saw it in the terms of service. Like, you don't do that shit.
Yeah, they Yoshi P and his team have a very tenuous relationship with certain add-ons, and there's certain add-ons that they just outright are not fond of.
Yeah. Like in the Old Republic, I remember spending time at a training dummy working on DPS rotations so I can get it down to do nightmare content and not get insulted. That's not something I necessarily fear here. And that's actually a pretty good feeling that you kind of go through and just kind of everybody's there to get your back. It doesn't feel like you're competing with the other people on your party. So the overall community, the player base, it seems a lot nicer than some other games I've played.
Yeah.
They definitely try to.
Yeah, they do. I saw. I was in, I think, Limbs and Lamensa one day, just screwing around, waiting for the my favorite ocean adventure to go off.
Mm-hmm.
And in the general chat, somebody was throwing the end-all, be-all racist term.
Yeah.
And I watched just basically the entirety of that instance come alive and just blacklist, mute,
Mm-hmm.
report, whatever you could do.
And the thing is, there are supposedly like mods, like from the Final Fantasy team that are there. They don't fuck around with that kind of stuff. You get reported for that, not saying you get outright banned automatically, you never come back, but they will ban you for a while. They will bring down the ban hammer. They don't mess around with that stuff.
No, and I'm glad they don't.
They're not like Blizzard where they say they care and they try to make tamp down on that, but that's a bunch of bullshit. That's why the WoW community is considered pretty toxic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is a Realm Reborn. I know you said the character, and we can all kind of agree, and I think even Bam, when we did what we like to call the Chad, Matt, and beta list. Even he had a hard time placing certain people highly because they're just kind of bland. But there are a couple characters that me and Bam like from A Realm Reborn. Is there any that you could say stood out a little bit where you enjoyed them?
In Vanilla Realm Reborn, no. I didn't actually start trying to connect with people until the patches.
Okay.
Post-main campaign.
Add the patches into that mix. Any characters specifically?
Raban.
General Bam, Raban. I can't argue. He is awesome. And I do like that. I kind of miss that voice actor's performance. I did like his voice. It had that.
Don't worry, he can sing for you later
Yes,
on.
yes, he does. And you know what? It is awesome.
I might have a little bit of a controversial one, but starting with the patches and even moving forward into now where I'm at, I've actually grown quite fond of Alphino.
Oh no.
You're
That's
talking
not
about the
controversial
noise.
at all.
I know there's people that do not like that character. They
Ye-
find him very
Annoying,
prissy,
pompous.
pretentious. And I'm sitting there
Accurate.
going, no. He just, that's how he was raised, but he's actually very awkward. It was just reconfirmed a couple hours ago before we did this, where when I got back, Shola, he goes to her, yes, when you appeared basically as naked as a jaybird in front of us, it's a day I will never forget. And what he meant was, I will never forget seeing my friend return to us. And she's like, oh, really now? Thinking he's talking about her nudity, and he gets all flustered. And it's like, see, that's I can connect with that. And that's a personality that wasn't there, but is now developing, and I'm very happy about that.
I also would have to point out that, and I'm not trying to slam the voice actor. It could have been direction, but the what was voiced for him, that his voice came off as very, very
Terrible.
pompous and where you just simply wanted to smack him. It was arrogant, would be another word. Very arrogant and looking down upon people and thinking that he was. And it even comes up in the patch notes and the thing where he thought he was going to be able to solve all the world's problems because he was a genius and stuff, and he got a hard lesson.
Yes. There is one other character that I actually do like in the post base game. He's not one of the scions.
That's fine.
He's kind of a secondary character that shows up, but the thief / informant that was part of the Crystal Braves, Royal.
He was also part of the Company of Heroes too.
Yes. Yes, he eye patch, blonde hair, and he was one of those guys where it just seemed smarmy, but the intent is true.
Yes.
He is actually a very good supporting character. He also reminds me of the side character in Final Fantasy XVI that's part of Sid's crew that helps you out, who is almost the exact same role, and by the end of the game also loses an eye.
I haven't played and I haven't even seen any story bits, so I will take your word for it.
I'm going to have to find that character's name just so anybody that's listening can... Because it was one of my favorite flipping characters in that game.
Yes, of course.
Gav.
Titus.
Gav.
Gav, okay.
Yes, Gav. He's one of Sid's men. He is the lockpick. He's the guy that you send into towns that can get the dirt, find the black markets, all this stuff. And he's got a heart of gold.
It just happens
and he
to
treats you like your family.
Yeah, it just happens to, have a skill set that people would look down upon.
Yeah, and Royal is, up to this point, has been that way too. When everything went south with the Crystal Braves in the patch notes, the patch quest, I was like, oh shit, what's going to happen to him? And it turns out he's fine.
Yeah.
Where I'm at in the story, he's fine.
No, that is totally. There's a lot of side characters that don't, they have their moments in the sun, especially if they're, like. I love Hilda. Hilda is my top waifu in this game, and when she comes on the scene, she plays her part, and then you move on and you don't really get to see her much unless you took up a machinist. You'll get to learn a little bit more about her when you do the machinist quest. But there's totally fine with Royal being one of the characters that you enjoy. Yeah. It's
and from what I can remember, he wasn't one of those ones that just appeared to help you. Like, he was the one that could solve a problem.
Yeah.
That you were having at that time.
And the fact is, you meet him earlier on in A Realm Reborn, and then in the patch notes he rejoins you. So it's not like he came out of nowhere either. You got at least established who he was, what he kind of could do.
It's like some minor quest or something that you end up doing.
Oh, that was getting into Titan.
Yeah, and you're all set up, and there he is, and there he comes back, and it's like, okay, cool. And it's just a well-played character, and it'd be nice to see him stick around. I don't remember her name, the ninja.
Oh, Yagiri.
Yes, Thank you.
No, there's no way me and Bam will not know who you're not talking about.
She kind of disappeared for me, where I'm at. I figure she's doing other stuff. She's trying to find the other members of the Scions with her people. So obviously she's not around. But it's like it'd be nice to actually get a little bit more time with her, because the time that you had in the patch notes before she lost her mask and you see what she looks like, it was like, it's kind of building up and actually getting to know this person and her as a leader and what she would do for her own people and all this. It's like, that's kind of cool.
Well, I had mentioned it when you got into Heaven's Ward, where I'm like, and when you first got to see her face, that's when the Aro was introduced into Final Fantasy XIV as a playable race. So that's probably why they did that. They probably had already planned out that the Aro were going to be playable race for players in Heaven's Ward, but they wanted to set it up. They do a lot of... You'll notice they do a lot of setup and payoffs as you keep going through all the expansions and stuff. So hopefully that tickles your pink.
Well, it depends on how successful the payoff is.
True.
Because I'll be honest with you, as much as I enjoyed Heaven's Ward's base story, Super Pope, as I make fun of, wasn't all that as a villain. It really didn't pay off well, having that being the last main battle.
Well, before we segue into Heaven's Ward, final thoughts on A Realm Reborn and what you would tell people about it.
Pinch your nose and get it over with as soon as possible. Also, find somebody that can craft shit for you and get you over level quicker.
Yes,
it makes it less painful. Truly, it does.
Yeah. Gee, I wonder.
Yes, thank you, Pop Tarts. And Bam.
Hey man, I didn't craft you anything. I don't know what you're thinking.
Well, you gave me that level 80 spear to eventually use.
You can't use it.
Eventually use.
Which one did you make them, Bam?
The lightning
secret
spear of some kind.
Secret.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking level 80s. That could be.
If I were to say, I believe I would be struck down by Yoshi P himself. I believe I have done a sin.
Really?
It's just sitting there. I can't do anything with it. Yeah, just if you're gonna play it, find a tank and a healer if you're a DPS, and just pinch your nose. Enjoy what you can, and just move through the base quest. Improvements start with the first patch series. And by the end of the patch note quest, you're really more invested in everything and ready for that first expansion.
Would you say it's worth downloading the free trial?
Oh, sure. Free is free. Enjoy yourself with a free trial. You won't have all the bells and whistles. I don't know exactly what is missing from a subscription, but can't join a free company. You have a 300,000 gil cap. You can't
people can't trade with you. You're the one that has to set up parties. You can't. I can't like. I wouldn't be able to send you a party invite. You would have to send me a party invite. So those are the kind of the main ones.
That no trading thing is painful, but
Yeah.
It's
I still
painful
think
because
just-
you were happy with the gear you got.
no, just in general, I think not being able to trade amongst people in an MMO is painful.
There's times when I've been trying
That
to give
too.
away free stuff like free minions. Sometimes, like I made a bunch of extra food out of a ingredient just because I wanted to make it to get it out of my inventory. I tried to give some of that to a sprout that was asking help to get to a thing. So I went over there and got my car out to drive him to where it's at. And I was going to give him some food buffs, and I couldn't because when I hit trade, because they're not able to trade at this time, which means they're on free trial. So it's kind of that's the one thing about Final Fantasy XIV is there are a lot of players, regardless of server, regardless of worlds, that really do go out of the way or just simply randomly give stuff out. There's been people that just randomly give gil to like sprouts. Don't ask anything for it. They'll just like here, they'll do trade. The person, of course, is questioning what they're giving, then they'll take it, and then boom, they leave.
Okay, I'm on Adamantoise. I'll be at the Foundry. No, I'll tell you what, I'll end up in New Gridania. You can meet me by the Aetheryte Crystal. I'll be there from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Anybody wants to show up and give me free gil, you're welcome to.
Yes,
My pockets are open.
They'll do it. There was one time where I was in Ul'dah, and I was just there for some other reason, and someone said, "Hey, I'm giving away free Gaily kittens to Good Home, whoever wants them, and I'll be here at these coordinates." And I was like, "Okay." I said, I didn't have the minion, and it's a cute little minion. I like went over there and was like, "Hi, are you giving away the Gaily kittens?" Trades, gives it to me, and then waves. And I like, thank you very much. I got a free minion. it is a very good community, the Final Fantasy XIV community. So why don't we move on to Heavensward? And I'll let you take it from here. What you think story wise and in characters.
Well, it's a far better story because it has more focus to it. A Realm Reborn didn't have a lot of focus. As I said, it was trying to do too much because it was setting up an entire world. This narrows it down a little bit more. And what piques my interest, obviously, is somebody that likes fantasy and its tropes and trappings. The words "Dragon War,"
which got teased to you in the patch notes.
Yeah.
Hell, even in the base game, because you go to Central Corthus in the course of the Realm Reborn, so you got a little bit of a tease, not much, but
yes. But that's kind of like, okay, this seems more interesting off the bat for me. Essentially going into a nation ruled by a very authoritarian theocracy was a choice, but it's not a bad choice. It actually sets a very particular feel and aesthetic that kind of permeates everything, and also when you travel outside those bounds, it makes the things away from Ishgard that much more fantastic, which was very well appreciated. I did like that.
Hey, look at that! Dragon Song's playing now as you're talking about Heavensward.
Well, I like the idea that also that it's always a good thing when a game takes a dragon and realizes that it's not just a killing machine that doesn't have its own thoughts, feelings, language, culture, all that. And this definitely reinforces that they're just another race on the planet. And life is complicated, and how they view life versus how, the player characters would view life are a little bit different because the way they view time is different. So, grievances to us, that was 1,000 years ago. We can move past that. For a dragon, it's like, dude, that was Tuesday.
Yep.
The wound is still fresh, and it changes your opinion. But also, I like that it was weaving in secrets as to who was actually telling the truth. And the part of the story was you're also going through and picking out all the little bits of information to finally get, as it's revealed, the big picture as to what caused the Dragon Song War. And then the further knowledge that, well, this shit's been going on even longer before that.
A lot of unreliable narrators. A lot of people on both sides keeping secrets.
Speaking of unreliable narrators, the fact that the expansion is set up as a frame story is especially good. Where you have the segments where it's somebody reading from a journal, setting up what's coming next.
Mm-hmm.
So that means everything already happened, but you can't rely exactly on what's in the journal that's being read to you as being the truth. So you're playing potentially someone's exaggeration of the events that actually occurred. And I think that's always cool.
And in this case, and it's not a spoiler, we're going to be a little bit more guarded with Heaven's Ward because this is something you have to experience. The story on it is great. But it is from Count Edward Fouton's point of view from his journal that he's reading.
Mm. And you meet him very, very early in the expansion. I think it's like the first mission. You meet the Count when you get into the city. Like first three. One of them is like you walk around the city and you get introduced to everything, and then you go to the manor and you meet him. And if you don't think he looks like Elvis Dracula,
Elvis Dracula,
I don't know what to say.
I've never heard him been described as Elvis Dracula. Interesting.
Hello, Lord Tepesh of House Fortal. How are you today?
Yes.
I'm very fine. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. What is? You have a moniker, sir. What is your moniker, Lord? They call me the Impaler. Oh, what is it because you torture people? No, that's what the ladies call me. It's like, something.
Oh.
Terrible. Obviously, music is still very, very excellent going into this. I would not expect anything less. One of my favorite songs to this point is called Solid.
Solid,
It is the daytime music for the city. There's just something about it that actually resonates with me, and I'm like, this is cool. And the nighttime version, I think it's called The Nobility Sleeps or something, is equally good. Story's really cool. I actually think the dungeons were a little bit better this time around.
Okay.
Than Realm Reborn's. I think they put a little bit more effort into crafting the dungeons, and there's just not as many as Realm Reborn, obviously, because Realm Reborn is essentially a complete game unto itself.
Yeah.
Which is probably why it was designed that way, probably.
Yeah. And, the dungeons here are a little bit more interesting. Not necessarily mechanically different, but they just feel cooler at points.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier in the stream the library. I thought the library was fun.
Gobu, yep.
Library is just fun. The one dungeon you and I went through, where we did uncap it just to get through, in Falcon's Reach, where we take on the Griffin at the end.
The something vigil. Sorry.
Yeah,
The Dusk Vigil.
Yeah, Dusk Vigil. Yeah.
that was cool. That was cool. I really liked. It starts off with you climbing up this snowy outcropping, fighting your way up and into this place, and eventually working your way into a very small room at the end to fight a griffin to take the gem in the statue's head that the griffin, is kind of guarding.
Mm-hmm.
And
even though I two-shot the boss, I did explain though how the mechanics works if you had gone there with a regular team, and you saw the little rubble piles, and they play a part in those mechanics.
Yeah. I also like that going back into the hard modes. I really didn't see too much of that in Realm Reborn, just on my own experience. I'm not saying it's not there, but at least with some of the dungeons in Heaven's Ward that I've encountered, going back and doing the hard mode version of them is different than the original version, and like ways that I was not expecting. Though the Stone Vigil in Realm Reborn was one that really stuck out as this is totally different on hard mode than regular. Because on regular, that's where you're going to get the Enterprise.
Yep.
And on hard mode, it's a completely different dungeon.
Oh hell, the second boss alone is a complete.
Annoying.
Yeah, it's granted. Aren't you glad we unsynced it, because synced that thing is not fun.
No.
It's not fun at all, because you need to use the
camera. No, thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, Orm Vale can go to hell. That if there's ever a dungeon I need to say that about.
Oh, you're talking about that level 47 dungeon.
You mean you don't enjoy the army of warbles?
And the piss water? No, I don't. I really don't.
I am not, and even Bam could probably attest to this. How many times we probably both went in, and we never did them unsynced. I don't know if you ever did it unsynced, Bam, but I think that was the first time I did it unsynced. Actually, no, that would have been the second. The first time I did it for a Blue Mage, but I was going for something specific. I have wiped so many times in that first room. And not just like one wipe and then we get through it. Wipe like 3 times before we get to the boss. That dungeon does not care who you are. It will kick your fucking ass.
PTSD dungeon.
Yes.
I was watching a YouTube video talking about they were ranking all the Realm Reborn dungeons. Just Realm Reborn. And they took a poll on social media as to what's the worst one, and Armvale was the worst one. It was by miles.
It should be specific, though. It should be Armvale, the first room.
Oh, people just hate the entire thing. The entire experience.
Fun.
The entire experience is ruined by that first room.
Oh, that first room is hell.
And then it just sucks. It just continues to suck from there on out. It's just not fun.
There's no right or wrong way to get through that room. It's just trying to get through it.
Let's see.
Yeah. So Heaven's Ward. We're back to Heaven's Ward. I know we dipped down to that, but
I kind of like that it toned down the number of primal fights in Heaven's Ward. And I'm kind of glad it did, because I think they gave a little bit more care to the primal fights then.
I think they overemphasized the concept of primals in A Realm Reborn.
Yeah.
They needed to explain what they were, that they're a thing in Eorzea. It's not just the tribes in A Realm Reborn that do it, but you also find out that it's also tribes in Heaven's Ward that have this belief, and they manifest through primals, and primals are bad because they're not really, they're tempering they're basically sucking the life from their worshippers to exist, along with like the crystals.
Yeah. Yeah, the more primals that are out and about and active, the more and more energy Eidolon is losing.
Yes.
But because they kind of pared down, at least for where I've reached, I've now hit the point where I've unlocked the extreme version of the 2 that you go through in the story mode.
For Heaven's Ward?
For Heaven's Ward, yes.
Okay.
So the bug guy, I have the
Ravana.
extreme for, and Bismarck.
Oh,
I have
God.
extreme for.
Yeah, Bismarck's
But
not fun.
what I'm saying is, like, the fight for, Samurai Bug guy, I'm not going to remember his name.
Ravana.
That's fine.
He felt more challenging than some of the base primals in Realm Reborn, because there was a little bit more care to the fight. And Bismarck definitely is a different fight.
Yep.
That is a totally different experience than the other ones. I think the closest that I could compare Bismarck to is Leviathan. And even that's not even a fair comparison.
You're talking about, like, the mechanics in general?
The scope of it. How big the thing is.
Yeah, he takes up a big amount of that screen.
Yeah, Bismarck is impressive in its scale. Not necessarily the mechanics at when you first encounter it, but my understanding is extreme is that.
With there's a
Bismarck.
Yeah, there's a couple of, I think it adds like 1 or 2 wrinkles. You definitely have to watch out for the knockback with him.
Yeah, because it sent you flying literally into the sky.
Yep.
What else? More Moogles.
Yep, Moogles. A lot of Moogles.
Laugh all you want, but Moogles are a staple to the franchise.
Yes, they are.
And being able to actively interact with them more, and I think they become a beast tribe that I could work with a little bit.
Kind of. They're a crafting beast tribe.
Okay. So if I go into crafting, that's where
I don't want to ruin a bit of the story, because there's a reason that you interact with them if you want to. And there's a story that is attached to all the lore and everything that is in Heaven's Ward. But I don't want to. I want you to experience it, and because it is a very good story, and it everyone sees the Moogles as being they're the comic relief. They are funny, but there's a lot more to them than just the fluffy cuteness.
They're also lazy.
Yeah, well, that too. They're very lazy. Oh, and the Beast Tribe quest, it kind of emphasizes their laziness. But they're
anything like the trials of trustfulness that I had to go through with them. Yes, it definitely emphasizes their lazy ass attitudes.
There are exceptions in every tribe and stuff, and there are some exceptions in here, but they kind of need a little push. And it is a very neat. If you ever take up crafting, Outrider, I highly. It is an involved quest string to get their quest tribe to open, but it is worth opening it up for a lot more story and lore.
Anything else without actively describing points of the game?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things that we can talk about that is not really spoilerific, because a lot of people know about certain moments of Heaven's Ward.
I like the Lord Commander as a character.
Hell yeah!
Oh,
Join the team!
That's his boy. That's his boy.
I like the Lord Commander, but I also just saw something that happened to the Lord Commander.
You're going through the patch quests?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's yes.
And that happened right before our stream. And I was sitting there like, son of a bitch,
Huh?
when I saw that. Which is a good thing, because I really didn't care about the ones in Realm Reborn, and now I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
I'm letting you
find
know,
that
Outrider,
person.
you're really gonna like the patch quest stories that are still involving Heaven's Ward. You're gonna love them.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to doing the stuff with Alexander.
The beginning part, yeah, I can see where it's not a very good introduction, but it's a very good story. I liked it. Bam wasn't totally sold on it, and I'm not dissing you, Bam. Again,
No, that's fine.
it's subjective. I like the sci-fi aspect of it.
As a summon in other Final Fantasy games, Alexander was always a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
Because it reminded me of like the fantasy version of the Transformer Metroplex.
I had that. I had that toy as a kid. Trust me, I had him. I had that.
Yeah, it was like, all right, I'm going to summon a city to my aid. It's like what? It's like his name is Alexander, and now it's going to set up a bulwark, and you're never going to get past it. It's like, okay, cool. I liked it. It's basically Metroplex, so
yep.
Except it's the fantasy version. I've always dug that. I'm actually, and this is a positive thing for me, definitely. I'm actually excited to go burb hunting.
Burb hunting, yeah.
For the burbs. I want the burbs.
Oh, you're gonna love the super burb then, because it's.
I've seen the super burb.
Yes.
It looks great.
It just like the super pony, which by the way, people are watching. He does have the super pony. I went pony hunting with him a couple days ago, and though he didn't have quite the speed record that this bastard next to me called Polaris Andromeda had, that I didn't have when getting the freaking ponies, it was pretty fast.
Bad.
The only pony he doesn't have is Nightmare. But he granted, I think it took us two pony hunting runs, because I think it was helping you with other things, and you got like 2 ponies, and then the second time we went pony hunting, you got the rest of the ponies pretty fast.
Except for Titan.
Yeah, Titan
that took us an hour.
Yeah, Titan was very greedy.
It took us an hour, but there was quite a few. It was only like the first. Like 1 or 2 of them I got immediately, and then it was like 1 or 2, runs through it, and then I got the Titan, which is like, here's an hour of slogging through it almost. Yeah. The only one I don't have, but I figure that'll happen, is because you do see these extremes in the Chloe book that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
The Nightmare Pony, which I do want because it looks awesome.
Yep. And that's the main
rare one.
But that's the main 3 primals: Gruda, Efreet, and Titan.
Yeah.
And I think Titan's probably the quickest fight to go through to try to farm for it.
I don't know. I keep thinking like the 3 of us went in and did a Efreet on Extreme, and Bam killed it with a ninja.
Yes.
Yeah, it went so quickly. It was like, all right, you can target it, dead. And it was just over.
The thing is, though, at least with Efreet, I think that's dependent on whether or not I crit. And 2, if you don't blitz him fast enough, he'll just not take the damage.
Though probably not quite your speed record, Bam. I can get pretty quick with a warrior, where he doesn't even do his first raid wide. I can get it as long as I hit him quick, and then hit my my super rage thing, where I can do my 3 supers and my spin to win. I can get him down in probably about 15-20 seconds before he does his raid wide.
Yeah, and because I wasn't level 90 and maxed out all gear, I stabbed him once for like 2,000 points of damage. Looked pathetic. Whereas I see 100 and something thousand pop up on one of your hits. It's just like
nonsense. You'll be there eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, you're already in what, like Stormblood levels of frickin'.
I am at level 66 right now.
He's not at Stormblood levels, but 66 is nothing to
No, that's
seize
Stormblood.
about. Oh yeah, true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's Stormblood levels.
Stormblood maxed at 70, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So you're already getting the taste of.
Well, it
Stormblood
also
and room
helps
mechanics.
when he goes in dungeons and stuff with us because he gets that XP boost from us for us being at a higher level. Which is a positive about the game altogether, regardless of expansion. Is if a Sprout teams up with someone who's at like the max level, they'll get an XP boost. Regardless if they belong to the same FC or not. Like I was helping that one Sprout today, and even though we didn't do any like raids or kill things, I still saw that it had the XP boost symbol next to him. So.
Yeah, it's good. So far, so good. Enjoying, Heaven's Word, my experience in it.
How about characters? Anyone besides Emmerich that also stood out to you, or like any favorites?
Like I said, I'll go back and I will say Alphino. I mean that's like my almost brother in arms at this point.
Wow, Bam right now is like,
Hey! Don't throw me under the bus. You're just let them enjoy Alphino. No need to bring my critiques into it.
your critiques?
It's because of the amount of. Keep in mind, it's the amount of time that the main character and Alphino spend together, because you've been separated from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually can develop him more, and it's like, okay, at least I know, even for all your faults, you genuinely are looking out for the best interest, and you are actively trying your hardest.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my take on him. Obviously, Lord Commander is just freaking amazing character. Oh God, what is his name? But the half-son.
Oh, Harshafal. Harshafal. The everyone's husbando, regardless of your preferences.
Absolutely gutted with him.
Mm-hmm.
And because I thought he was a fantastic character.
Set up very well too from a Realm Reborn.
Yeah. But that's very late in a Realm Reborn.
True, but at least
encounter him.
At least he's set up and you get a payoff.
Yeah. Let's see who else was somebody.
What are your thoughts on Lucia?
Lucia, Emmerich's right-hand woman.
She didn't do anything for me. I hope they expand on her more, because of where I'm kind of at. She's now like, oh, I'm going to try to negotiate a treaty between the dragons and whatnot. I'm like, okay, go sister. The reveal as to her lineage was interesting. The reveal of who her sister is was even more interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of when Alphino questioned her allegiance because of her sister, and what she said? Her response to that was. I thought that was a very good response.
Yeah, don't dwell on the past. Look what we can do as we move forward. It's like, yeah.
Well, no, she had her beliefs. I have my beliefs, and the best we can do is to stand by those beliefs.
Yeah, and then she also says, and it's not right to look into the past.
Yeah.
And judge somebody based on that. Move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, that was fine. For some reason, she just reminds me of a nun.
A nun?
And it's because I went to Catholic school for so long. It's the rigidity of it.
I went to Catholic school too, but I didn't get a nun vibe from her.
It's a theocratic state, and she's a warrior nun, but she's very, very passionate in her beliefs, but very reserved in how she displays it. And that's kind of the nuns that I had. You could tell there was a level of zeal under there,
mm-hmm.
but they were very reserved about it. essentially don't make them mad.
Oh, I know about that. Trust me.
Unlike, her, where you'd be on the receiving end of her sword. Me, I was on the receiving end of a ruler from, Fair's nuns.
Oh, you got it light.
Goodness.
Light?
Yeah, you got it light.
These were metal rulers!
You still got it light.
That's not
I've seen a nun take a girl's head and slam it head first into the desk and draw blood and break her nose.
Well, see, that's called a crime. That was called a crime, okay? That's a crime. That's not, typical nun behavior either. That's not on steroids. That's bad.
And the girls and stuff that after it happened, she's like saying, don't tell anyone, that's how scared they were of the nuns. So yeah, you got it light.
You have no fucking clue what I went through, but I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah, that's not let's not go into
the Catholic school scars for life, okay? Let's just leave it
trust
at that.
me, it does. It does.
Yeah, but I get that zeal that's there.
Okay.
I'm interested to see when the switch flips, if that happens. But I'm like, eh. And I also don't like her haircut. I mean, that's just an aesthetic thing.
Yeah, well, teach
I
her
mean,
own.
it's like, yeah, welcome to the year 2000. Come on, get a better haircut, lady. But I get why she had that hair that way. She was covering up something.
And you got to remember, most of the models are based off of like hairstyles and stuff that you can do for your own character. So,
yeah.
What about your literal brother in arms? The one that literally wields the same weapon as you?
Oh, him.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Yes, and in my case, it is a literal brother in arms, since I am a dragoon also, with the soul of the, the Azure dragoon, so to speak. Though he wields the artifact, which is the Eye of Nidhogg.
Mm-hmm.
There's an entire thing involving the Eye and Nidhogg and a lot of it's all intertwined into the story, which I kind of liked, and that's why I kind of enjoyed Heavensward's story on such a deeper level, because frankly, as a dragoon, it was more personal because of him and the fact I'm dealing with dragons. And what's the source of the dragoons' powers?
Dragons. Well, in case in Estidian, it's the Eye of Nidhogg. Specifically, the title of Azure Dragoon.
Yeah, and it's a very if you're this class, you meet him doing the dragoon quests, and he is not your ally.
No,
he is your rival.
Yep.
And when you reunite in Heavensward, it is pointed out. And I think I was talking to you about it, Bam, where I think if you play any other class, it's just, you mentioned that you're the Warrior of Light, and when you're a Dragoon, he's like, I know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, there's the rivalry, and you kind of have to stow it to get the work done. And then what happens to him at the end of the base story.
Were you even expecting that?
I thought something was going to go south, but I wasn't sure, because you expended so much of the power out of that artifact. But you have to keep reminding yourself that every time it's described, the Eye, it's a near limitless source of aether.
Yep. Powered by hatred,
rage, and hatred,
rage,
and revenge, and all the wonderful, horrible feelings that had been welling up. And it's not until he has that moment of weakness, and it's not even weakness, it's just resolve that,
Relief.
yes, I can finally be done with
Yep.
my burden, that the eyes plural take him over. And it is a literal takeover,
Yep.
which was rather interesting. And I have this distinct feeling we're going to be putting him down at some point.
We're not going to say anything. You're.
I don't think there's any way around it.
Yeah. So you will experience it. I will tell you that that you've the patch quests kind of follow the same order regardless of expansion. There's like I think 5 of them total. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 6. Because they break 5 into 2 parts. So halfway through going through the things, Heaven's Ward will resolve, and then it's like clean. The patches are kind of like cleanup. They kind of tie loose ends, and then also at the same time set up the next expansion. That's how the patches usually work.
Yes. Yeah, and it's the linkage between the 2 expansions, which is fine for me. You know, I think actually more games would benefit from that.
Yeah.
As ongoing games having some kind of linkages between them instead of just praying to God that your seasonal content makes sense from one season to the next.
Destiny. Destiny.
Hold on. They had Season of the Seraph. They at least tried, but of course the other stuff sucks.
Yeah. They tried once.
They did not try. Whatever.
But so of course, Lord Emmerich, Bam asked you about Lucia. Any other characters that you were fond of? And of course, Lord Hoshfalt.
I have a hard time with her name, but Lady Iceheart.
Oh. Assail, yeah.
Yeah, her. I'm glad she wasn't a throwaway.
No, definitely not a throwaway.
I did enjoy when you first met her, and you were like, the focus was the fact that it's like, oh my word, she laid with a dragon.
Well, that's what all the Ishgarians thought of the heretics, quote unquote heretics. But if you ever really listen closely to the Oblivion song, which is if you bring out the mount that you got from her, that describes sort of a little bit. It actually always kind of gives you a little backstory, but mostly her frame of mind, how she feels, especially with her connection to Shiva. So yeah, that's if you ever get a chance to really listen to the lyrics to that, or even just go to YouTube and see watch a video with the lyrics in case you can't hear anything specific. But yeah,
the thing that I appreciated with her was, okay, it's another light bearer.
Mm-hmm. She has the echo just like you do.
You actually start to understand more of what the echo is because of her.
Mm-hmm.
And what she's able to do, and then it's like, oh, okay, so now I understand the power of the 12.
A little bit.
Well, they were doing the same thing. You know, they were essentially fueled on faith of other people that helped bolster and essentially convert them into what they were. They were taking on what we would call a primal, and that, you know, that's kind of interesting. You know, that people can like power up if you have enough belief thrown behind you. What does that mean for the Warrior of Light down the line, though?
Yeah.
See, that's an interesting question for me. That's why I'm like more attached now, moving out of the base game.
I would say that's good.
Because-
That's good world building.
Yeah, I would say, you have what's happening here. People, you're not this unknown person that nobody knows about. Every time you go in and do something, you do something big. As the journal entry at the very start of Heaven's Ward that the Lord is reading off, and he says that we didn't know at the time how your arrival was going to change us, subtly but also dramatically. And it's like you become known there, like you were known in the Three Nations
Yep.
to the south, and more people know you. They start believing in you. It's like, if you could do this shit and you're starting to draw upon the people, we're, to put it in Dragon Ball Z terms, this is like Goku's Spirit Bomb level stuff.
Yeah. We'll just have to find out how that works out.
Yeah, I'll have to find out. I can't wait for that all to be stripped away again, though.
Well, I'm not. We're not. Me and Bam are not saying anything. He's giggling menacingly under. Like, we're like from here on out, I just will not spoil shit for you. Like, I stopped saying where you were in quest wise, except for when we got to the etheric chamber and you were about to take on Thor, and I was like, no, you want to do that tomorrow because it was like what 1 a.m. I was like, yeah, because I just simply said, this is your last battle, and you're going to have shit tons of credits.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, no, I did it this afternoon, and after we had lunch at the house, and I finished it up, and my daughter's watching the credits. She actually goes, Daddy, have you finished the game? And I said, well, I finished this part of it.
Yeah, yes and no. Yes
she,
and no.
She actually kind of seemed, if I was to say yes, she actually almost seemed like she was going to get upset if I actually finished it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Has she sat there and watched you in like long stretches as you're going through them?
She watches. She actually enjoys watching me. Like, hey, Sweet Pea, where are you?
Oh.
She ran out of the room. Okay. So, you like when Daddy's playing this game? What do you like about it that you like to watch Daddy do? She likes watching my a broader otter.
Okay.
Running around. Now, sweetie, do you also like watching Daddy ride his magical ponies and stuff around? Oh, and you like the green chicken too. Okay.
Oh, he's floating back behind her. Wait.
No, I'm rotating my camera. She can see.
Okay. There he is. He's sitting there by my feet.
For me, he's behind the couch.
Okay. Well,
with my otter. I think my otter's looking at him like bait. Yeah, she just sits here and watches me fly around, watches me do stuff. And...
did you show her the Moogles when you finally met them?
Oh, she's seen the Moogles.
Okay.
She thinks they're adorable.
Of course, because they are.
Yeah, I mean, they are. But yeah, she sits there and she does what she does while I'm playing, and I think it's just she enjoys the time spent being around me while I'm doing this, because we're together in the house, and she'll ask me questions and I'll answer them, and we'll just talk back and forth. And it's the type of game that, if I'm in an area where I could just sit down, put my character sit down, then she and I can do stuff for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And we can go back and forth. So she actually likes that better than me constantly swearing at the screen during a Grandmaster Nightfall.
Yeah. You can park your character and they can sit there, especially if you're, in the capital of deviancy, Limsa Lominsa, and there's always something interesting going on in Limsa. Before we get into a little bit more nuts and bolts in Heaven's Ward, have you enjoyed sitting and watching and listening to some of the bards play their tunes when they're around. I don't know if you hang around too much. They're mostly in Limsa, but I don't know how if you've actually sat there and watched most of their tunes. Because I remember the first time you heard them playing stuff, it's like, wait, they're playing that song?
Yeah, I think it's fun that they could play those things, but I have no real need to sit around and watch them do it right now. I kind of want to keep moving ahead with what I'm interested in before I start trying to soak in what other players are doing and how they're engaging with the world itself proper outside of my friend group.
It's more of it's more of like an interactiveness with the community. Like sometimes when I'm like after I've done stuff, I'm just like when I sit down and like I'm looking at my inventory, thinking about what I would craft, and then just happens to be a bunch of bards playing stuff, especially songs that I like, and I just sit there and I listen to them and I interact with them. You know, you clap, you cheer. I've got emotes where I can throw out gil to them. It's a neat interactiveness with your fellow players. It's pretty neat. How about negatives? You've been pretty much gushing about Heavensward, and nothing is, like we say, nothing is perfect. So
I do not like the aesthetic of the final area of the game.
Oh, you mean Asla? Yeah, it's ugly.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I
do not like it. It's just that is like
cyberpunk vomit.
Yeah,
that is 2010s. You said it. 2010s PS3 era cyberpunk looking shenanigans, and I'm like, this hurts my eyes looking at most of it.
I think it's purposely done, especially as you hear like a lot more of the lore about the Alligans as themselves.
That is a purposeful aesthetic choice. I just don't like it.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's it. I just don't like it. It does not appeal to me. You know, it is what it is when it comes to that. I'm trying to think of what other negatives. It's not so much of a negative, but knowing that the Cassians, I think, the darkness.
Oh, the Asians.
Asians, thank you. Asians. Yes. The Asians. Knowing that the Asians are like this pretty major threat, and they have been, and they're very difficult to get rid of because it takes an enormous amount of concentrated energy to do so. So they can always keep coming back. Having them around, I think, in a way, diminished Super Pope as a main threat for me. Yeah, it was not that big of a deal dealing with him.
Yeah,
I think Bam was like, I want to end his holy war or something, and I'm like, you're just like some dick-headed archbishop of a local diocese. I'm gonna stuff you in a locker and then never think about you again. You know, it was just the way I looked at it. I liked the initial meetings with him. I liked that he felt he was able to play both sides.
Yeah.
I liked when he sent his guard away and he flat out asked you about the Asians.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is good. And then it became more interesting with the dragons. And then he kind of is there doing his own things, but I don't feel I spent enough time with him to make him a really major threat. He felt more like a secondary.
He got overshadowed by all the major players on.
Yeah, he got overshadowed by the major players, and realistically, I think they maybe could have made him a little bit more menacing.
He came off more as a pawn.
Yeah, and that's kind of a sad thing because the thought of him and his 12 soldiers that are all ultra powered out, that should be a big fucking threat. And I just did not have an issue with them
The
Like
fact that
they were not as big of a threat.
The fact that he was powered by 1,000 years of belief.
Yeah, as well as the other eye. I mean, everything about it said that guy should have been, basically calling himself a god, and doesn't matter what you're on, light or dark. If you stand in their way, you will be cut down. I mean, this is all things that should make them big and bad, but there was a gap that they needed to have more involvement to reinforce how big and bad he was. And I think that was just and trust me, folks, I'm saying this is a minor quibble for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is minor. I am having a hard time thinking of stuff I really don't like about Heavensward.
Oh. It is critically acclaimed. A lot of a lot of people who played Heavensward when it came out, and I'm talking about like YouTubers that I watched, they had a different experience because a lot of things changed. Just like with The Realm Reborn, they changed a bunch of stuff. Heavensward went through a bunch of changes too, with updates and stuff. It used to have a lot of hard edges to it that were pretty hard, but now
the context of what he means by that, the vault used to be impassable for most people.
Yeah,
No.
You think Orm Vale except worse.
No. I'm going to disconnect right now. I don't want to think about that.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know that
We're not trying to open up scars and wounds there, Outrider.
there was a time, a
Nice
timeline that is now
Love you.
long forgotten. That was one of the big problems for players getting through the campaign.
Yeah, it was a wall, basically.
Well, I'm glad I'm playing it at a point where it's been polished.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's been polished, yes. That would be a good word for it.
Also, I think physical attackers had an attack power bar instead of MP.
There was a lot of different mechanics, like summoners
Yes.
worked
Station
way
things,
differently.
It was wild.
Bards were different.
I think tanks also had healers had healing stances.
It was a different breed.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I wasn't there.
I want to just say one thing as we're talking about this. It's just MMOs in general, because we were talking about smoothing over rough edges and whatnot. I'm actually glad to be playing a game that doesn't delete its content.
Yes. There is nothing. The only things that nothing's been deleted, they've just been changed. Like we were talking about the Praetorium and the one before it. They're still there. They just changed mechanics, how things worked, the encounters, but it's still the story beats and everything are still there. They didn't change any of that. They haven't deleted anything. I can't think of anything. I've watched a bunch of YouTubers who've been playing it longer than I have. Everything's here. Every single activity.
Is I don't have to worry that if I want to just go back into, say, the Sea of Clouds and fly around or go sky fishing there, it's still there.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry that maps and locations are going to be deleted or vaulted, as some people claim it.
Mm-hmm.
And
a bunch of bullshit.
It's a different type of game, sure. Even size-wise, this is a different size than, say, the other thing I'm alluding to. But it's nice to have something that feels like a consistent world, especially if you're going to be a long-term player. I mean, that was like a very difficult thing where, as a long-term player, after so many years, all of a sudden, 3 whole planets were removed. that you couldn't go back to. And some of them were just like places I like to go just to, ride around and do public events and stuff like that, just because I enjoyed their locales and some of the stuff that they offered. Can't do that, but at least here I can still go back and visit. And I gotta say, I told my wife earlier today, it's nice playing a game where I could be going into a new zone and I can see other players. And there's constantly other players around. The world feels alive.
Yeah.
In that sense. But, back to Heaven's Ward. I'm pretty well satisfied. Anything I have is so minor at this juncture as to things I may have issue with that it's maybe not registering with me at this point.
All right.
I think that speaks volumes.
And I know you're probably early on in the whatchamacallit, the patch quests right now. I'm trying to remember. I'm going to look at here. You haven't had any trials or dungeons yet that you've encountered, have you?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? My wife actually interjected, and I had to mute my microphone for a second.
That's okay. In the patch notes, after you've beat Thornton, have you encountered any dungeons or trials yet so far?
What I've done so far is I've opened up 2 of the extremes. I've opened up the first Alexander thing. Where I am quest-wise, I think is called Dreams of the Lost.
Okay, so yeah, you're early on. You haven't.
Yeah, I just started getting into it. I kind of sidetracked a little bit and got a couple things open, and I probably spent a little bit too long doing Moogle quests and Mogtopia.
That's fine. Yeah, you're early on in the patch quests, and you're gonna have a couple dungeons and stuff. But like I said, it wasn't so much of a spoiler as to say, once you hit the halfway point with the patches, you kind of finish tying the loose ends with Heaven Ward, and there's more loose ends and setups after that. So to look forward to for Stormblood, which you'll be able to hit. But
I know this week's going to be a little bit. It might slow down for me because something also drops tomorrow that has my interest, and I'm probably going to take a couple days of just obsessively going through that.
Which one's that?
Oh, it's the second DLC for Remnant 2 comes out tomorrow.
That's right. You and Alec were talking about that.
Yeah. So
well,
I'll be on my bullshit for that for a few days.
Yeah, that's fine. And not to toot my horn, but it did. I think having people to help you especially go through Realm Reborn, is speeding up your process of chomping through the main story quest. It's a good thing that I'm an Omnicrafter and I was crafting shit up like a storm for you to pump you up.
Yeah, the crafting is a big help, and that really kind of helped me out dramatically getting through the content. But I guess it's also, to some degree, as I've been playing this a little bit more, some of my older habits from playing SWTOR started coming out with how I would do quests and how fast I would get them done. Because I start prioritizing ones, and once they appear on the map as the locations I have to go, I almost instinctively do them in a particular order so I can loop back around and dump them in like 10 minutes and just be done and gone.
You basically make a trail for yourself. Plot out a course to maximize your speed and getting stuff done. I can understand.
So, unfortunately, it starts the insanity of me, just blitzing through stuff here and there. But the main story elements I've slowed down. Like I'll just stop the dialogue and just think about what was said before, depending on or what was shown before, depending on how impactful that scene is towards the overall story.
Oh yeah.
So
I still think about with you describing what you're saying. Make me thinking about certain things that I encountered in my first run specifically, and even after I did like a couple more runs, I've gone through A Realm Reborn 8 times with 8 different characters.
Bless your heart.
You notice certain things, and you're like, there are some like my alternates. I'm just like tapping the X button. Like, okay, I just want to get this character to the end stuff. But there are certain parts in the story where I will purposely slow down because I like those parts of the story. Like talking with Haurchefant in certain moments. I want to talk to Haurchefant. Moments like talking with like Sid and his crew. There's other moments I can't describe yet because you haven't encountered them, but one moment that always brings a chuckle, and I think is probably one of the few parts where the main characters, and I think those are actually patch notes too, where they didn't seem as bland, was when Moonbrita came in. And then Moonbrita's talking about how Uranger used to go, "Oh, Moonbrita, I have this thirst that only you can quench," and and he's all flustered, and then Thancred goes, "Go on." just a tinny. That was like maybe that's where the writing started to flesh out their personalities a little bit more. But yeah, you're in for quite a treat. For the rest of at least the Heaven's Ward portion of the patch notes, and I think Bam will definitely attest to that. That you will probably be quite satisfied with the true end of Heaven's Ward. Would you agree, Bam?
Possibly.
Possibly. Well,
I know.
You never know.
I'm wishful for another moment, but we'll see.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna flat out say you will like it. I think.
I actually find it funny that when I said that I reached a point in the ARR patch quest that kind of hooked me.
That was
and
this.
I was referring to meeting, I want to say Midsummer, and I know it's not as Midstormir or whatever.
Midstormir, yep.
Yeah,
big Midstormir.
Meeting that after that dungeon and everything that transpired, I was like, this was a hook that I needed. Like,
I was there
ago.
when you said. I was there when you said that.
But when I put that up, and other people that play this game that I interact with are like, oh, so you got to the banquet, and I was like, excuse me.
Yes.
No.
I wanted to.
And then after the fact, when I went through the banquet and everything, I was like, no, it was really that meeting with the dragon that hooked me. The banquet, I understood what it did, but I didn't really find it as impressive as maybe some others did, which is fine, and that's perfectly well done. I understand why.
Everyone has their favorite moments.
Banquet, which really were really good. But for me, it's that almost coming to God moment, but it ain't your God that you came to type scenario. That it's like that was the moment where I felt, okay, not only is the world bigger than it appears, how damn small I am.
Yeah.
But I've attracted a lot of attention, and that's a cool feeling.
And I wanted to, I forgot about when you were talking about like the beast tribes and the fact that you're mean and you're just like mindless monsters just for you to kill, and they're all evil. And we've played D&D, and we know, even before 5e came out, my friends and I we had orc tribes that weren't evil. They were like civilized and very intelligent and stuff like that. But what I wanted to hint at is when you talk about the dragons, and it is specifically was laid out in the story in your lore. Midsommar, they're refugees. They came to this planet. Well, Midsommar did with the clutch of eggs he had. But they're refugees.
Yeah.
So.
You
Anyway.
get that from when you meet Tiamat.
Yep, and Tiamat, and then you. I think Tiamat. I think the second meeting with Hraesvelgr, and then when you meet Tiamat, really solidifies the dragons and make it just gives them a fullness of what they are. They are just another race trying to live out their lives. Granted, dragons live a long fucking time and are powerful, but they make them complete. They're three-dimensional.
Yeah, and that was actually a big thing for me. Going back to my days of playing D&D, favored older campaign setting for me was called Council of Worms. And Council of Worms in D&D is where it was a second edition D&D campaign where you played as dragons.
I didn't play that. Didn't know it existed.
So you could play starting as a hatchling, which you think hatchling dragon. What you don't understand is when you looked at the stat blocks and you actually were playing a dragon versus a regular PC that you would make. Dragons have way higher stats to start, even at a hatchling level.
Oh yeah.
So, being a clutch of hatchling dragons, you were already like levels above a group of player characters starting out. So your adventures were much different, and it was neat to play as. I know some folks are like, "You're playing as dragons, you're fucking power gamers." Well, no shit. That's part of the fantasy of it. But it was just a neat experience. Being something completely different, and I'm glad that they took the effort with this and fleshed them out instead of just I put my marker on them and I keep spamming my abilities till it goes down.
Yep. There's a lot of that. And there's some fates that will pop up when you got the time and you want to do like fate grinding. There's a couple fates that have like they're just not one fate and that's it. There's a story that strings through them, and they're strewn between like a bunch of the expansions.
Well, I know I'll be doing some fate grinding. I got 12 Atmas I got to claim at some point.
Yeah. Yes, you would. Well, those are specific areas for that.
I have an entire spreadsheet for this shit.
So the viewers know he's talking about the Realm Reborn relic quest, which is a grind and a half.
I have no illusions that I'm going to get it done this year, and I mean that wholeheartedly.
Even with me with a walkthrough, it took me a couple months to finish it, and then Heaven's Ward will be just as long. With a lot of stuff that you got to do, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, anything you want to add to what Outrider said, Bam, or like at least your own insights on what you liked?
I don't want to impose any like favorites onto him. I just want him to experience it for himself.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, but if you have any like characters up to the point where I'm at.
Oh, he already said
things that you've experienced.
I already had my share with Amaric, and that's pretty much it. Everything else that I'm looking forward to is later.
Okay.
Yeah, we're waiting for you to specifically Shadowbringers. I'm not going to lie.
Everybody wants to get to Shadowbringers. I've been getting that feeling nonstop, or outright people saying it to me. So it's
and by no means are we saying that Stormblood's bad, because it's an okay story for what it is. What a lot of people though definitely say about Stormblood, and even Bam has pointed this out. When it comes to raids and mechanics and everything, oh, they cranked it up to 11. The things they introduce in Stormblood is chef's kiss. It's just certain characters don't float people's boats that are kind of like the center, and I can enjoy the story for what I knew it was going to be, and but it is really Shadowbringers we're waiting for you to get to. I'm also waiting for you to get to Endbringer, but you got to experience Shadowbringers first for Endbringer to really have that. Endwalker, sorry. But yeah, Shadowbringers. There's one character specifically me and Bam can't wait till you meet. I think you know who I mean, Bam. But anyway, I'm glad you definitely now are enjoying it once you got past the slog for A Realm Reborn. And again, people, A Realm Reborn is not bad. It is, considering what Yoshi P and his team had to do to save Final Fantasy XIV as an MMO altogether, is something that has never been done in the industry when it comes to MMOs. It has probably had a lot of rough edges for what they were trying to pull off two different things at the same time. The story, none of us have played 1.0 Final Fantasy XIV, so we can't judge A Realm Reborn complete without that information. But it still is very rough. It is tough to get through, but if you can get through it, the base story, things get better. And when you do get to Heaven's Ward, you will see why people like this game, why they have no problem paying $15 a month for a sub, because they get you mentioned it, Outrider, with all the stuff you get. The fact that there's all this stuff that you can collect, minions, orchestration rolls, mounts. We've already told you they have deleted nothing. They've changed certain aspects of certain things, like certain dungeons don't work the way they were when they first introduced, but they are still there. The only things that kind of disappear are the events, but they're always new events. There's only a few returning ones, like the Final Fantasy XV event, the Dragon Quest. I think that's coming. That's also going to be dropping soon. I think it's a repeat that what we did, I think last year, Bam. But like the events like Little Ladies Day and the Christmas events and the Halloween events, they're still based around that, but they're new stories, they're new rewards. Everything you get, everything you pay for one, getting into the games and expansions, and then you pay those $15. Yoshi P and his team give you your $15 worth. You're not throwing money away. You are getting stuff back in return. Yes, there's a MOG station that has stuff that you can buy, but by no means is it like a FOMO thing. It doesn't help you mechanically or stat-wise. They're just stuff that you can get if you want to get them.
Oh, I can actually add on that.
Okay.
The cash shop isn't in the game itself.
No, it is not in the. It's a very good point. I know. I didn't realize that until now. It's not sitting in your face when you're like interacting with a certain NPC. Oh, look at this! You could get this. All you have to do is spend 50 million crystal bucks, which means you have to spend like $60 to get like a full armor set.
The cash shop and MOG station is a separate website altogether. It is. You can access it before you log in.
Yeah. And the thing is, it only shows up for a brief second when you log in, because it kind of like has that scrolling thing where it's talking about all kinds of different things. it's not always in your face.
No.
Um,
When I click past that, and then the title screen comes up for me, for us right now, it's Ed Walker.
Yep.
And I hit start. There's no cash shop from
Nope.
there on. It's gone. You don't have to mess with it. It's nice. It's very nice.
There's no mention of it unless you want to count the fact that you occasionally see some people with stuff, but that's not even in your face. That's just like, oh, that's a cool little thing. Where do you get it? And I tell you, oh, it's a manga thing. You pay for it. Oh, okay. Well, that's neat. And then you move on. But yeah, there you go. Well, Outrider, why don't you give your deets where they can find you and interact with you? Give you free Gil and the Foundation?
Well, here on Adamantoise, obviously. But past that, my socials and stuff are getting more and more limited. Mm-hmm. And it's just Outrider45 at the site formerly known as Twitter. And that's pretty much all.
Well, you're no longer on Twitch?
Don't use it anymore. There's really no need.
Twitch is kind of dying. Quite honestly. Even like YouTubers that I watch are like saying Twitch is dying. Everyone's moving over to like Facebook, YouTube, quite honestly. Bam? Don't you have some deets too?
I mean, you can find me either fricking about on this channel, or I have a really, really small account on YouTube and Twitter under BA Marzetta, as well as Jedi Polaris 23. But that's about it.
All right. I'm going to break away from my usual spiel because we are on Final Fantasy XIV, and you're probably all saying, wait, you don't you do Destiny too? I haven't done Destiny in like 4 months. Quite honestly, I have even the stuff that came by recently with the boards and stuff. I just can't back with it. But anyway, you can if you enjoyed the stream, you know, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notification when we're streaming. You can also follow me on PlayStation Network whenever we're playing a game or streaming, so you're in your dashboard feed, especially if you're looking at that particular game. You just like the fact that I barely go to the mock station here for Final Fantasy XIV, and I'm not putting down Yoshi P's. Like we said, it's great, it's there. It's just not in your face, and they're like, hey, if you want to get it. But just like I don't really go to the mock station for stuff, you could also visit our severely underused Twitter pages. I refuse to call it to whatever the fuck dumbass Elon Musk wants to call it. But our severely underused Twitter pages, Space Canada TV, our PR man, I am Emo McGillicuddy, and my own Super Evil Pop-Tarts, one word spelled out unlike my tag. So hopefully life won't keep me from streaming. I'm going for a little rough patch right now, but hopefully I'll be able to still engage with you and streaming now and then. It's not a job for us. We do it because we enjoy doing it, and we enjoy the games we play. I'm glad, Outrider, that you are enjoying Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially, you know, after you've got through Realm Reborn, and we, like I said, and you've probably heard it from your followers and people you know. We can't wait till you get to Shadowbringers. But by no means just blitz through Stormblood. It is still a good expansion. But I'd like to thank you, Outrider, for joining.
Sure, thank you.
And Bam, a.k.a. Jedi's Polaris in the chats.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Super Evil Pop-Tarts. Remember, in space, no one can hear you apologize.
I don't have that flex yet.